last night, and we'll kick it off with a game we'll call the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the good will be a favorable start, we think, for the Green Bay Packers. They open with the Vikings, then they play the Jets, they play the Falcons, and they play the Bucks. So we were talking yesterday, Adam Schefter, about the very real possibility that Micah Parsons is not back to start the season. So maybe a few softer games early benefit the Packers. Where are we with Parsons?
Parsons looks like he's going to miss at least the start of the season. They're hopeful he can make it back as soon as possible, but they themselves have been open about the fact that they're not counting on having him early on. If they're not going to count him early on, you have to wonder if he's a pup candidate, if he starts the season on that list. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he makes it back by then. We'll see how that works out, but the schedule sets up for Green Bay to be able to start quickly without Micah Parsons, who went down, as you referenced yesterday, Greeny, 5 months and 1 day exactly today. 5 months yesterday.
And they've won a combined total of exactly 0 games since then. So the Packers, they'll have to start it without Micah Parsons. What are the questions about them? Because I think a lot of it will then fall on Jordan Love. Some of the receivers are gone. Micah Parsons not going to be there to anchor that defense. If he's going to be an MVP kind of quarterback someday in his career, this would be a great time for him to do it.
The word for the Green Bay Packers, in my opinion, is rush. And it's rush on defense, right? Once Micah Parsons went down last year, they couldn't create a rush. I believe it's why Rashawn Gary is now in Dallas. Offensively, the same thing. Look at what Josh Jacobs was 2 years ago as compared to last year. He was one of the best running backs in the league. And if you get the run game going, now Jordan Love can be the player we've been expecting him to ascend to be for the last 3 years. And the other thing, the last piece is don't rush Micah Parsons back. You have this easy start to the season, or teams that are lesser, at least as far as we project them to be this year, allow Micah Parsons to be as healthy as he possibly could be for the stretch of the season, and that's going to be on Jonathan Gannon, the new DC, to make sure this defense can perform.
When you say stretch of the season, 4 of the last 5 games at home. The only road game they play in the final 5 weeks of the season is at Chicago.
I wish you could have all seen Shefty's face when he got this grid. We have a grid here that lists every game of the NFL schedule, and we lost Shefty for a good 10 minutes when Mike handed that to him. The Packers are an interesting one. It's a very competitive division. They're a team we've been waiting to take that next step. Maybe last year felt like a half a step backwards. Which way do they step this year in your mind, D. Wood, now that we see the schedule?
I think they can take a step forward this year. Another component that I would talk about is Tucker Kraft. He was so big as far as their offense. When he went down, you saw his effect and what he meant to that offense. So getting him back healthy is going to be a huge part of it. But I agree with RC here. Make sure that Micah is coming back right, because you want him in the second half to be that closer for the Green Bay Packers. And Jordan Love, I have no problems with it. I think some of these young wide receivers are going to take a step up. I think that's why they dealt some of them other guys, because they felt like guys like Christian Watson and Matthew Golden and all those guys were ready to kind of emerge and take a step forward.
Greeny, doesn't it feel like, though, for the last few offseason, Adam and Woody, that we've been talking about Jordan Love possibly becoming this MVP candidate? And even if you look at the playoff game last year against the Chicago Bears, he needed to make a play late, and we end up seeing Caleb Williams do that. Will this be the year that finally Jordan Love takes that next step? And I believe that goes along with the rush game for this team.
It would have been interesting last year if Parsons and Kraft stayed healthy, if Jordan Love would have taken that step last year. Now, I don't care who they open with. I don't care how the schedule lays out. You're bringing back these guys whenever they're ready to play, whether the schedule is easy or hard early on. And these guys are going to make a huge difference. Got to be careful with some big-time players.
They lost their 2 best players as the season went on. They lost their best player on offense, lost their best player on defense. Jordan Love needs to become their best player on offense for them to take the next step. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad, Denver. What a brutal start. Holy smoke. The Broncos start with the Chiefs, then Jacksonville, the Rams, the Niners, the Chargers, and the Seahawks. Some of this, well, let's start with their quarterback. We talked about the race to get back. A lot of that conversation is about Patrick Mahomes. How about Bo Nix? This news that he had a second surgery. Will he be there for all of these games?
Yeah, the organization's not concerned about Bo Nix, despite the fact that he did undergo a second procedure on that ankle. It was just a cleanup. He was going to have it anyway. It got delayed because of the injury that he suffered in the divisional playoff game against Buffalo that prevented him from playing the AFC Championship game. But the organization is not concerned. He should be ready for training camp he's going to be ready for Week 1 at Kansas City on Monday Night Football.
So, I mean, RC, I'm surprised. To me, the Broncos feel like a Super Bowl contender. I think if their quarterback is healthy, they were in the Super Bowl a year ago. DraftKings Sportsbook has them the third favorites in the division behind Kansas City and the Chargers. I know this is a brutal start, but what are you looking at?
Well, I think the first thing is look who the quarterbacks of those other two teams are. Right? People still don't put Bo Nix in that conversation, even with all the fourth quarter comebacks. The athleticism we saw from the quarterback position, we're looking at those other quarterbacks and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, and they hold them in a different esteem. And the other piece of this is this defense is not only Super Bowl caliber, it can go win you a Super Bowl. It almost put them there with Jarrett Stidham at the quarterback position last year. So this isn't a team that you could sleep on. This is the difference, though, between having the third place schedule last year and now having a first-place schedule when the way we look at this season started.
You've talked about that a lot last couple of days here.
Yeah.
That first-place schedule is a real thing, and you've lived it.
Absolutely. You're getting everybody's A game. There's no question about it. But I will say this, like with the Denver Broncos, they got a couple things working towards them. Number one, that trade for Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is going to make a big difference in this offense because he brings an element that, quite honestly, was lacking with that offense, the explosive element, and then continuity. Like, some of these other teams, you know, coaches moved on, there's been changes, but you still got Sean Payton, Bo Nix. Like, that is such a big deal for a young quarterback, having that continuity as far as play calling and quarterback. So I think those things will work in his favor.
I'll say this, too. I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes. That's a whole other conversation. Bo Nix has won playoff games. Justin Herbert has not. Yeah. I happen to be a big Justin Herbert fan. That team never seems to be healthy by the time the season comes to an end. But at this point, Nix, Herbert, I don't know that it's such a one-sided conversation.
I don't believe it's a one-sided conversation, but everything in the Justin Herbert conversation is about potential. Right? It's about who he can be, what we've seen him do from an athleticism standpoint, from a measurable standpoint, the arm strength. With Bo Nix, what we saw last year was many times for 3 quarters, he wasn't the quarterback that you wanted, but he found ways to win along with Sean Payton. If we see more consistency out of him, this could be one of the best teams in the league again.
All right, so we're doing the good, the bad, and now the ugly, which will be the unhappy holiday stretch for the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at Kansas City's stretch from week 12 through week 16. They get the Bills, they get the Rams, they get the Bengals, all of those on the road. Then they come home to play New England. They were in the Super Bowl last year. And the 49ers, if they hadn't been decimated by injury, who knows where they would have been last year. All of this obviously will ride on the health of Patrick Mahomes. But let's just live in a world where he comes back and is healthy and is ramping up as the season goes on. Are we still sure that they are the team? Are they the team to beat in the AFC? Are they right back to that?
Here's the thing.
They weren't that when he was healthy last year.
But this is the Patrick Mahomes stretch, though.
Right.
This is the NFL being smart enough to say, hey, guess what? If he's healthy, if he's who we believe he is, this is when people want to see him play.
They gave him a runway.
Yeah, nobody wants to catch the Kansas City Chiefs, and no offense to Justin Fields, if Patrick Mahomes is not playing the quarterback position. And we've seen him and Andy Reid prove it over and over again how good they could be. But in my opinion, they aren't the team to beat. You have to look at this team. You lost both of your starting corners defensively. You're going to be inserting first-round pick Mansour Delane. You have Patrick Mahomes, who is coming off of a severe knee injury. Travis Kelce isn't who he used to be, and many people feel like you didn't add what you needed in the draft at the top of the draft to the wide receiver position. And so this is a team, to me, that's in flux, and we don't know who they'll be then, but what we expect is that Patrick Mahomes would be there, and he's always box office.
Well, I'm glad you on set right now, because I've been preaching that gospel, man. Because, listen, there's a lot of moving parts, variables to the Kansas City Chiefs right now. They've added a lot of talent via the draft on the defensive side of football. We don't know what those guys are going to be like. And on offense, obviously Patrick Mahomes is going to have to, round in the form. But where's the explosiveness on the offensive side of football? We got to depend on, Xavier Worth, some of these other guys that really haven't shown it yet to really come through for Patrick Mahomes.
So you don't know what we're going to get from those other guys. And I got to tell you something. As much as we know Patrick Mahomes and as great as he's been, I don't know that we know what we're going to get from Patrick Mahomes early on. Let's not diminish the fact that he tore his ACL, he tore his LCL, he's had a toe injury.
Yep.
Like, this is a major injury. How does a player come back from that? When he comes back right away, assuming he plays that Monday night opener, do we think we're getting the full-on Patrick Mahomes in week 1?
You tell us.
So I don't believe you get the full-on Patrick Mahomes, but I also believe he's talented enough to figure it out. I believe listing those injuries, though, Shefty, says how much he had to do. The sort of load Patrick Mahomes truly was carrying for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's why Kenneth Walker III is there. That's why Eric Bieniemy is back. It's about holding this team accountable up front, on the outside, in the run game, to say Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to do it all, especially after coming off of that surgery.
That injury, as you see, was December 14th. Their opener is September 14th. 9 months to the day will he be able to get all the way back. Much hardest schedule in the AFC. Will miss the playoffs this year.
I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. I do think they take a step backwards. I mean, listen, they're not going to, they're not going to sneak into this thing like they did last year. Last year, I mean, their schedule was a cupcake schedule. This year, far tougher schedule. We still don't know the component about A.J. Brown.
Right.
That trade I think is going to be possibly a big addition for the Patriots.
We believe he'll be there.
Yeah, okay.
Shefty strongly believes he'll be there.
Yeah, but I think, do they take a step back from last year? Absolutely, yes.
What were you just saying about their schedule?
I'm a big believer always in how the season starts. I always think every game is one game, but that opening game just sets a tone. And if you fall too far behind early on, it always feels like you're playing catch-up, and it takes a lot out of a team. I want to go over New England's schedule early on.
Yeah.
3 of the first 4 games are on the road. And by the way, tough games.
Right.
Yeah.
At Seattle, at Jacksonville, at Buffalo. Look at the records of those teams last year. Now, again, those are tough games. If you're 2-2, you're 1-3, you just feel like you're struggling to play catch-up all year long. And by the way, we think A.J. Brown will be there, but there's a lot swirling around the team right now.
Of course.
There's just a lot swirling around there.
Yeah, that opening game, by the way, is that Wednesday night opener. The Seattle Rays, it's a rematch of the Super Bowl last year. A lot of people thought the Bears were going to be in that spot. The league put the Patriots in that spot. It's that Wednesday night opener. Seattle will raise the banner. Obviously, a lot going on
It's
there.
always difficult to play in that game. I got to play in 2 of those games on Thursday night with the Steelers, and the energy in the building, it feels like another Super Bowl. But when you look at the Patriots, you were coming off of a 4th-place schedule last year.
Right.
This year, you play the 1st-place schedule. You're going to get the NFC North. We know what the Minnesotas and the Chicagos and the Green Bays can bring to you. And then you also get the AFC West, right? So you have the Denvers, the Kansas Cities. This is a totally different schedule with different expectations. No one thought about Drake May as an MVP candidate or Mike Vrabel as a Coach of the Year candidate or this team being the type of team that could get to the Super Bowl. It's different now. You aren't sneaking up on anyone. I believe they not only take a step back, but in my opinion, the New England Patriots missed the playoffs this year based on this schedule. I know what everybody's going to say. They got 4 wins because they got Miami and they got the New York Jets. But I believe the rest of this schedule make it extremely difficult.
None taken. And I, the term a candidate for regression has become something I hear in the NFL all the time now. Is New England a prime candidate for regression? Are the Bears a prime candidate for regression? We'll see. Sometimes teams take another step forward. The addition of A.J. Brown should make them that much better. I don't know. We'll see. I will believe it. I will believe New England falling apart when I see it.
I still think you have to watch the game.
Yeah.
When you watch the playoff games, offensively, this team really struggled down the stretch against the better playoff teams. How much better does A.J. Brown make them going into the season?
It was the left side of their offensive line that really struggled. Right? The left side of their offensive line got dominated.
New England played a bunch of young players last year. A lot of young that's going to go into their second year. You should see that growth.
Just one more scheduling note. We talked about 3 of the first 4 being on the road.
Yeah.
That doesn't even include road games later in the season at Chicago, at Detroit, at the Chargers, at the Chiefs, later in the year when Patrick Mahomes will be healthier.
Who gave Shefty this sheet?
This is the best thing ever happened to Shefty.
We've lost Shefty for the day.
It's going to be week 11, and Shefty's going to pull this out on the show.
He's going to have that thing laminated before the day is over. All right,
How do we get this laminated? How do we do that? That's a great idea.
I'll get Jack on that for you. D-Wood, next one. Would you believe that the New York Football Giants in year 1 under John Harbaugh will go all the way and win the NFC East?
I would believe it, to be honest with you, because here's what I would say. You saw last year how many, one-score games that they lost. A lot of that could be attributed to coaching. Here's what I like about the Giants. The Giants have some really good players at critical positions. Quarterback, left tackle, pass rushers, wide receiver. Now, we know Malik Neighbors is coming off the injury. We got to see how he tracks as far as coming back off of that. But I like the pieces that the Giants have to work with, and I think the coaching of John Harbaugh will get these guys together.
This is what makes the NFL great. Every year, there are teams that rise up. Every year without fail, that rise up and surprise. Last year, it was New England. They reached the conference championship game. The year before, it was Washington. They reached the conference championship game.
Yep.
What did Washington have? They had a new head coach, Dan Quinn.
Right.
What did New England have? A new head coach. What did both teams have? Quarterbacks, good young quarterbacks. What do the Giants have? New head coach, good young quarterback. I'm not telling you they're going to do it, but I am telling you the elements are in place for them to have that type of season.
I'm going to add to what D. Wood said. They didn't just lose one-score games. They lost 4 games in which they held double-digit leads at one point or another. That's 4 wins that you just basically hand away. If those games go the other way, this was a team that might have been interesting to watch last year. And they lost Neighbors, and they lost Scadaboo. And I thought they had a great draft. At 5-10, I thought, personally, they may have gotten the best defensive lineman and the best offensive lineman in the class at 5-10. I think the Giants are going to be good.
You think the way they started this draft was great, but also look at what they added in the offseason. Isaiah Likely can be an all-pro performer at the tight end position. You add Patrick Ricard. I mean, it's basically like Baltimore North right now.
Right.
But you add Patrick Ricard that adds to the run game and what you can do with Scadaboo. I think some of the underrated moves they made are Malachi Fields.
Yes.
And the 3rd round Notre Dame, a really good player. But you add Darnell Mooney, who at times was the best receiver in Atlanta, and Calvin Austin, who could play the slot. And it's also about keeping Jackson Dart healthy. And when you think about closing games, Greeny, it's about defense. Colton Hood could have been a 1st-round pick out of Tennessee. You go and you add Arvell Reese or Darius Washington, who was a big piece of Baltimore when he was healthy. Edmonds at the linebacker position. This is a team that can make a run, especially with the favorable schedule.
Everything you said is 100% dead on. But there's one thing that you said that's more important than anything else, and that is the health of Jackson Dart.
Right.
Here's a young quarterback who was evaluated for a concussion 5 times in his first 10 NFL games, including the preseason. 5 evaluations, 10 games. If that rate continues, if these types of hits continue, that's going to be a big problem. And all this progress we're talking about, all this potential goes out the window if he is sidelined.
It's about, that's Matt Nagy and John Harbaugh's #1 priority and job this year is to keep Jackson Dart healthy, but Jackson Dart also has to switch his mindset, which is so difficult for these players. The hit we just showed against the New England Patriots, where he already had the 1st down, he's running down the sideline. You can clearly see the linebacker, and he gets plastered underneath the bench.
Here's the play again,
You can't do that.
No.
I don't care how much you need to switch a mindset or whatever it is. This is just smart, intellectual quarterback play to get down and feel and instincts. And Jackson Dart has to adopt that, because if he doesn't, he will not be healthy enough to have a long career in New York.
Yeah, he needs to spend more time on the field and less time in the blue tent. But if he's able to do it, I think he's got that.
Yes.
I think he could be a superstar.
He's a star.
I think he has a chance to be a star. And Neighbors will be back when?
I don't like the sound of that second knee surgery. Now, they are hopeful. They're hopeful that he's going to be back week 1, and this was to clean out some of the scar tissue and address some of the stiffness. But you're talking about a great young wide receiver. He's now had 2 knee surgeries.
Had a conversation with him in Newark Airport a couple of days ago, and he was just talking about the rehab and how hard he had been going at it. And he mentioned the second surgery, and he said it was just to clean some things up. And he's like, now, though, it did have to start over. He's aiming to be ready for week 1, but the one piece of advice I gave him is come back when you're ready, come back when you're healthy, because what you don't want is another setback in this season.
Came out of the schedule last night. Shefty had his laminated, and this is what he's been doing all morning long.
All right, Greeny, Cleveland. Let's go on the schedule here. Take a look. At Jacksonville, at Tampa, Carolina week 3, break.
All morning long. I can't get him to stop. Shefty is upset.
Cincinnati, Tampa, at Houston, at Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, break.
This is the first thing that's kept Shefty off of his phone.
By the way, 4 stores have broken since he started doing this.
I hope nobody can read my lips what I'm saying, whatever I'm saying right here. Green Bay, at Minnesota, at Jets, Atlanta, break.
What did you say? Ash is saying something in my ear. What was it? but the schedule that you want. Okay, let's do it. The NFL schedule is out. So let's put a magnet on your fridge. And Shefty, let's start with you. We're going to play a game called Save the Date. What date are you saving off the schedule released last night?
Save the date.
Yes.
Any date I want?
Yeah.
I think we're going to go right now, December 20th, Ravens Steelers, first time since no John Harbaugh, no Mike Tomlin. The last time we saw a Ravens-Steelers matchup that didn't have John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin was when Bill Cowher and Brian Billick were squaring off. That was Christmas Eve, 2006, a long time ago. It's a new tradition with Jesse Minter, with Mike McCarthy, Steelers, Ravens. Take a look at the rest of the Steelers schedule here.
Shefty is consumed. What do you think here? Steelers and Ravens, I feel like the conventional wisdom could not be more opposite. I feel like the world thinks the Ravens are going to be back. Lamar seems totally invested. He's been at everything in training camp, not training camp, but mini camp, whatever the offseason program has been. Steelers are sitting around hoping Aaron Rodgers decides to show up at the age of 42. I feel like these teams, right this minute, feel like they're headed in the opposite direction.
Absolutely. And it feels like these teams not only are headed in opposite directions, their focus and priorities seem extremely different as well. The Baltimore Ravens are trying to win right now, doing everything they possibly can to maximize on who Lamar Jackson has been and who he is at this point. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are waiting on a plus 40-year-old quarterback to decide if he wants to come back and play with this old coach who, when he left this old coach, he didn't even like. And so to me, Omar Khan, the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has to get more focused on the direction, which has always been in Pittsburgh, to win Lombardi trophies. Because as it stands, there are pieces within that building that can win right now, but if the quarterback position isn't right, your team isn't right, and they just aren't.
I don't know exactly what the feeling is around there. Everything from where I'm sitting doesn't look good in Pittsburgh. How about on the other side? The fact, and we talked about it briefly yesterday, the fact that Lamar Jackson has shown how invested he is in the new coaching staff, being there every day, leading in that way by example, making it clear, this is my team and this is the way we're going to do things. I feel like that is a major statement by Lamar Jackson in Baltimore.
Well, when your best players bought in, it's easy for the other players underneath to really buy in as well. And when you have your quarterback, part of the process in hiring the head coach, now he's fully invested in it. And the fact that Lamar Jackson has been there since day one, participating, learning a new offense, with Declan Doyle, first-time play caller. I think those are the things, man. Those are the things in the offseason that people don't even talk about during the season.
Right.
Those are the little things that add up during the season. And so when you're looking at Baltimore, the culture that Jesse mentioned is going to be, he was already a part of that before. coming back to Baltimore, the defense, Lamar Jackson being healthy, that's going to be huge for this Ravens team.
Also, too, though, I hate that we went into this offseason with this criticism or this scrutiny of whether or not Lamar Jackson was going to be there. It was about the collective on this team. It's about Declan Doyle understanding I'm a first-time play caller. The more experienced person, the more accomplished person at what they're doing is Lamar Jackson. Let's make this collaborative. And when you allow a quarterback to invest in who your team is, he will invest in the rest of the players. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we're seeing out of Baltimore. And that can be scary for opposing teams.
I think that's a good point. And I also think, because I mentioned that I happened to run into John Harbaugh just completely randomly at a restaurant on Saturday night. I talked to him for a little while. He seems so energized. He seems so excited about what he's got going on. It is a reminder that every once in a while, we criticize the idea of change for change's sake. Yeah. Maybe sometimes you do need a fresh start. Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh, they had great success together. Yeah. That will never be taken away. They didn't get over the top, but they had great success together. But Harbaugh looks re-energized in a new spot. Lamar seems re-energized with a new coach. Maybe sometimes that separation is a good thing for both sides.
We had that conversation so many times about Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh as well. But when you look at Baltimore, having a new voice also brings a level of scrutiny, right? It also brings a level of that now we have to prove that we can do it without this future Hall of Fame coach. And all eyes are on Lamar Jackson now. Right. You got a new coach. You got a new offensive coordinator. You have more input. What are you going to do?
Well, and I think for me, it's like the excuses go away. Because for the longest, we've been talking about the dynamic between John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. We know who won the power struggle there. Now the folks going to be, okay, Lamar, this is on you. You basically was part of the process of picking Jesse Mentor. You're invested. Now we got to see you deliver.
You're talking about the excitement. Did we not see Mike McCarthy in Pittsburgh during the draft?
We did. We ran into him too.
Green bumps into a lot of head coaches in a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, I
For a man that eats like a bird.
do. Coaches like to eat at 5 o'clock. What can I tell you? They're there at the same time. But I'm flexible. I'm willing to do 5:15.
But how energized did Mike McCarthy seem?
Very.
About being back
home.
Coaching in Pittsburgh, no
Yeah.
less. I don't think there could be a coach who's more excited about being in a certain city than Mike McCarthy is about being in Pittsburgh.
That's true,
right
but
now.
wait till he walks in his quarterback room. I think he's going to be a little bit less excited. All right, D-Wood, give me a date that you were saving after the schedules came out last night.
Yeah, how about September 28th? I got the Eagles at the Bears. Remember last year when the Bears went into Lincoln Financial Field and rushed for 281 yards against the Philadelphia Eagles? They bludgeoned Philadelphia in that game. And so if you're Philadelphia going into Chicago, you got to have some type of payback mentality after getting beat up like that against the upstart Chicago Bears.
It's a Monday night game. The Monday night schedule is phenomenal, by the way. I was going over it last night. Fantastic. But I haven't seen you in a few weeks, so I don't know if you've heard. I am planting, you got to plant some flags in May. I am planting a flag in the Chicago Bears. All of this prime candidate for regression stuff, I get it. I get that the turnovers were a big part of their defense last year. I get that maybe the schedule was a factor, although their schedule actually was brutally tough down the stretch of the season. Whatever the other reasons are, people are saying that. Someone has to also take a step forward. And the combination, I think, of their young head coach and their young quarterback, rather than regress, I think all they need to do is fine-tune it a little bit. Caleb Williams can already do the hard stuff better than maybe any quarterback in the league. If he just gets a little better at the easy stuff, I think the Bears are going to be better. I think they are a very legitimate Super Bowl team this year.
Archie, you know what happens when Greeny plants a flag? The soil becomes contaminated. Okay?
That's what, I don't know.
I'm just telling you.
Dang, Greeny, that's tough.
He's probably right, but
I think that you're right, though, because so many times we look at these teams that win difficult games, or we feel like they were in a place ahead of when they were supposed to be, that they have to take a step back. Why is that? Why can't that experience help? Why can't learning to win help? Why can't that become a habit? And that's what I feel like will happen for the Chicago Bears. There's ultimate confidence in who Caleb Williams is, and you can tell that Ben Johnson knows that he belongs on any field against any coach. And now you go add pieces defensively that you needed, even though you lose the turnovers in Nahshon, right? You also lose the turnovers and not having Kevin Byard.
Right.
So you go at Kobe Bryant. You draft a safety that could turn the football over early in the first round. I love everything that the Chicago Bears did. And to me, building that passing game around Colston Loveland is going to be huge for them this year, especially when you see who he was down the stretch.
3 of the first 4 games for the Bears at home. 3 of the first 4 Bears. At Carolina, Minnesota at home, Philadelphia at home, New York Jets at home. Chance to start quick.
Yes.
Okay, Shefty loves his laminated sheet. All right,
Shefty's the best person to have on the show on schedule day. I'm just letting you know.
What date are you saving Ryan Clark?
I mean, I think this is a little bit selfish, but the first Monday Night Football game, first of all, we'll be there.
Yeah.
But also, we get to see if 2 of the most prominent quarterbacks in the AFC are available. Who is Patrick Mahomes week 1? Is he on the field? Is Bo Nix the same quarterback we watched push the Denver Broncos into the playoffs? And what can we expect from these 2 teams early on in the season? They figure to factor into the playoff race, and I think week 1 will let us know just how much and just how fast.
Well, they opened the season again with that Monday night game. They then face 3 teams that didn't make the playoffs last year, and then they have an early bye week in week 5. So the schedule, I think, came out very nicely for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And I want you to hear Andy Reid yesterday talking about the recovery of his quarterback and his team's heavyweight week 1 matchup against the Broncos.
Let's just take it day by day, and nobody's spending more time than he is rehabbing. He spends 7 hours here going through it, and he hasn't missed a day, and he wants more, and all the things that are Patrick Mahomes. And but let's see where we're at as we go forward. We get a little bit closer to the game. Roger Goodell probably used this as motivation for the 2 quarterbacks. Both of them have been banged up a little bit this offseason, so he's doing his best coaching to get them back in there, I think.
Listen, that was a little bit different, that tone, than what we've heard out of there before. We've heard prior to this, around the draft, he was way ahead of schedule. And we don't know exactly. I just keep coming back to the fact we think of him as Superman, Patrick Mahomes, and he is in so many ways. But he is not indestructible. That is an ACL. That is an LCL. He's had a toe injury. He's had issues. He's older, and he's going to come back, and he's going to be great again. But how soon is he going to be great? And what is he going to look like in week 1, assuming he does get back to play in that game?
What I always like to say before week 1, whether it's, the week leading up here on the show or Sunday morning as the teams are getting ready to kick off, and obviously this one will be a Monday night, so you guys will have that one. But there are games in September that you remember in January, and that is one of them. The Kansas City-Denver game, look, we don't know how things are going to play out. It would not surprise me at all if the winner of the division and home field playoff games and all that kind of stuff winds up being decided by who wins that game.
And the other piece of it is, too, it's the Denver Broncos defense. Right. We're talking about the fact that it could be Bo Nix returning. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes returning. It's going to be one of the best defenses in all of football under Vance Joseph. And so, to me, it's how much do you want to play Patrick Mahomes and how will you utilize him? Eric Bieniemy was brought back to bring a physicality to this offense. Kenneth Walker III is there, so the run game is prominent and it's a priority. That's what they have to lean on early with Patrick Mahomes. And the thing I love about the video we're showing of him and the way that he's trying to come back is it's a drop back pass, because that's what it needs to be. Patrick Mahomes, put your foot in the ground, get the football out of your hands. No more of this superhuman, superhero stuff that we've had to see from you in the last few years because of the lack of explosiveness from the receivers.
It's a long season.
Yeah.
It is a long season, and we as fans and play, we can't expect these guys to just come back week 1 roaring and being their old selves. And I think, just like you talked about Eric Bieniemy, part of it is these other guys got to step up. Yeah. They have to step up. The reason that Patrick Mahomes was in this position in the first place, because too much was on his plate. And so, Kenneth Walker, you sign him, those guys got to come through.
All right, Shefty, one last look at the play sheet. Tell me what else you've seen there on the schedule.
Kansas City, Denver, Indy at home, at Miami, at the Jets. The Broncos schedule, we went over that before. I know you guys say it's very difficult. I'm not seeing it. If you could find a way to win that opener, I think there's some breathing room, like Jacksonville Rams, at San Francisco, at the Chargers, Seattle, at Arizona, KC at home, at Carolina.
You've just received a glimpse into what our breaks have been like all morning long. Shefty's just sitting there. Roll the tape. Coming up, Milwaukee's dysfunction. We think if someone were to say, D. Wood, the Bears, who play the toughest schedule in the league, are going to miss the playoffs, are going to regress. Is that an overreaction?
That's an overreaction. Listen. As much as we talked about like the turnovers and the schedule and all this other stuff, we haven't mentioned about the progression of Caleb Williams. Being in his second year with Ben Johnson. I think the one thing I really appreciate about Ben Johnson at the end of the last year after they were eliminated was the fact he talked about is last year was last year. It has no bearing on the next year. Like, we need to reset and refocus and worry about 2026. I love to hear that from a coach because it's true. People expect, we're going to take what we did in 2025 and 2026. No, that team is totally different from the team that you're going in the season with.
So look, I mean, I've had Ben Johnson on my radar for years because Rex Ryan's son coached under him for years. So Rex has been telling me for years there is a young coach, a young offensive coach on the staff in Detroit who is going to be the next Bill Walsh. He's been saying that forever. So I would ask you this. Right now, the league has always had like the great quarterback-coach combo. We had Belichick and Brady. We've had Reed and Mahomes. If someone is going to become the next one of that, I'm not guaranteeing anything. Who would you bet on if you look at the combination before you would bet on it being Ben Johnson, who seems to be as creative offensively with a different style? Like every coach is running that one offense. He's got his own thing here that travels well. You look at what he's doing and you look at the talent of Caleb Williams. If you're going to bet on a coach-quarterback combo, why wouldn't you bet on him? You
absolutely bet on them, but I'm going to say this about Ben Johnson. Because it felt like he was slow to take a head coaching job, I didn't know what the personality was going to be. I didn't know what the dog was going to be. I didn't think he was going to walk out to the middle of the field, dap off Matt LaFleur real quick and walk off.
He seemed like a maniac.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to be. I didn't think he was going to be about that action the way that he is. I didn't think he was going to have that level of a way to hold a team accountable the way he does. The level of toughness he has, the physicality that he preaches. And if you look at the difference in Detroit's offense in 1 year and Chicago's offense in the year he was there, it felt like Dan Campbell was always the tone setter in that building, but Ben Johnson played a part in that as well. And so beyond what he can do from an X's and O's or strategic standpoint, it's Ben Johnson the person. It's Ben Johnson the leader. And he challenged Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams showed what type of dude he was by answering the call.
You know what else Ben Johnson is? He's smart. He had the opportunity potentially to be a head coach the year before. He waited for the right situation. He didn't jump at the first job that came open. He waited till he saw a spot that he liked. He identified Caleb Williams as the guy. I can make him into the next whomever, and I personally think they're on their way.
And if you go back to what we said last year, which was that it would take a little bit of time for Caleb Williams to get fully up to speed. Well, maybe a year into the offense, he gets fully up to speed. And if he's that good and that adept in that offense, yeah, the Bears will have a tough schedule. There's no reason that team should regress in noticeable amount to where they wouldn't be competing for a playoff spot.
You said something earlier, Greeny, about Caleb Williams being so good at doing the hard stuff.
Yeah.
You know what he was also good at? He was also good about answering the call in the biggest moments. That's normally the thing that young players have to gain, young players have to acquire through experience. But Caleb Williams, when all the chips were down, that's when he was his best at the quarterback position.
He just needs to learn to bat singles.
Yeah.
That's when his game is going to take the next level. We've seen the spectacular. When he learns to consistently bat singles, he's going to become a superstar.
If the Bears wind up winning that game, that touchdown he throws at the end against the Rams
becomes
becomes one of the legendary plays of all time.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just the touchdown. It was all of the things that led up to it. It was all of the things that said, hey, Caleb Williams, in this moment against the MVP, what are you going to do? Right. Can we count on you? And he showed time and time again.
Bears schedule, what are you seeing, Shefty?
I'm seeing 2 of the final 3 games at home. Green Bay, Week 16 at home. Detroit at home in Week 17 at Minnesota to end the season. That's a nice little run out at home against divisional opponents. 2 of the 3 games are at home, which is where the Bears would want to have those games.
So you see, they finished against the division in their last 3 weeks. All right, we continue with the overreactions. RC, these are courtesy of Graziano. The Bengals play the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL. So if someone said, Joe Burrow is getting back to the AFC title game this year, is that an overreaction?
I would say that's an overreaction because I don't think it only depends on Joe Burrow. Obviously, he has to be healthy. We know what he can do with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the outside. But this defense has been historically awful the last few years. Yeah. And what will it do under Al Golden in its 2nd year? And it's going to feel like, because you have the New England Patriots of last year or even the Denver Broncos at points of last year, that if you have an easier schedule, it puts you in the playoffs with an opportunity to win 2 games and get yourself there. But I just feel like the Bengals were too far off in the last few seasons to just predict that this defense will be good enough, even with an all-time great quarterback, that they can get to the AFC Championship.
The addition of Dexter Lawrence, obviously the big aggressive trade they made. Do you think that their defense can just get somewhere close to average, that Burrow can carry this team? Can they do that?
I think, if not now, when. Yeah. I think all the moves that the Bengals have made, because I think they feel a sense of urgency regarding their quarterback. Yeah. I think Joe Burrow has grown frustrated with this Bengals organization, the lack of moves or the lack of the guys on the other side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, to really step up. And I love what they've done defensively in the offseason. It's just a matter of, are they going to gel well enough to go out there and be true contenders?
That trade showed how much urgency there is for this season for this organization. And it wasn't just the trade for Dexter Lawrence. They went out and added 6 different players that could be defensive starters. They added 2 more players in the draft that could be defensive starters. You're looking at an overhaul defense because they know the importance of this season. This organization cannot afford to have another season go the way last year did. Otherwise, people in Cincinnati don't want to hear it. There's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be asked
about Joe Burrow's future.
Yes.
I mean, let's put a name on it. He seemed like an unhappy I love him. There's no bigger fan of Joe Burrow than me. He looked like a guy at the end of last year who just wasn't having any fun. And I understand losing can be hard.
So people who are hyper-focused the way that Joe Burrow is, there's the good pieces to it, and then there's the bad. There's the obsessive film watching. There's the understanding of defenses where I could continually pick you apart. But when you're losing, it's also the critique and the scrutiny of your entire organization, of your entire team. And when you are Joe Burrow and you play that well individually, that does begin to weigh on you.
Yep.
The other piece is this. We're talking about what's been added defensively. Obviously, we know that Dexter Lawrence is a proven commodity. They've been trying to draft defensive players. They've been trying to get good players on that side of the ball. The problem is they haven't produced to where their draft selection or draft slot was.
Right.
And that has to happen this year for this defense to be better.
But these are free agent acquisitions.
Yeah.
I think they feel like they have an idea of what they're getting more so than with a young rookie that you don't know how he's going to project in the NFL and how his skill set will translate.
Let me do one more overreaction from Graziano, and I'll set it up by telling you that 5 of the last 10 Super Bowls have featured at least one team that did not make the playoffs the year before. Like the Patriots last year hadn't been in the playoffs. They make the Super Bowl. It's happened 5 of the last 10 years. So, D-Wood, if I were to say that's going to happen this year, one of the 2 teams in the Super Bowl this year will be a team that wasn't in the playoffs last year, is that an overreaction?
I'm going to go overreaction because I got both of them making the playoffs this year.
No. The Super Bowl team that is going to be a team that missed to the playoffs this past year. So some examples might be
San Francisco,
Lions,
Dallas,
Ravens, Cowboys.
Yes.
Here are the 4 that we looked at. Lions, Ravens, Cowboys, Chiefs are all teams that missed the playoffs last year.
Absolutely. I mean, the first team I thought about was the Detroit Lions. Like that to me is a team like that. Absolutely, I think the Detroit Lions, with the additions they made on the offensive line and revamping the coaching staff, they're going to be a team that's going to bounce back. Baltimore, like the new energy in that building, Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson's healthy, come on. Like the Baltimore Ravens, to me, are like one of the most talented teams in the league.
So what I'm going to say is this year is kind of like cheating when you ask these questions, because we got these teams that historically have competed, right, and have been in that position. The New England Patriots came out of nowhere.
Right.
Drake May was in his second year. He becomes one of the best players in the league. Mike Vrabel right away shows why he should have still been the head coach in Tennessee. You look at these teams, we're talking about Andy Reid.
Right.
We're talking about Lamar Jackson. We're talking about Jared Goff and Dan Campbell, Amon-Ra St. Brown. The San Francisco 49ers, I'm going to be honest, there was no coach who outcoached Kyle Shanahan last year.
Right.
There was no coach who did that. And obviously they made the playoffs, but that's a team that could also factor this year because we're looking at the way that they lost football games because of not having. There's going to be a team that sneaks up this year and wins that already had good players, just fell on some hard times.
So you're saying you don't see a team. No one would. It comes from nowhere.
I think it's it's the Detroits, it's the Kansas Cities, it's the
But
Baltimore.
those teams were out of the playoffs last year. So
Dallas?
if your definition is
would Dallas be coming out of nowhere?
They didn't make the play. That was the question.
Right. Yeah.
The question is there a team that didn't make the playoffs?
Right.
And any of those teams is capable. Nowhere, somewhere, whatever, they're coming. Any of those teams is possible to do it.
I think you're almost scared sometimes to talk about the Dallas Cowboys as being a team that can win in the offseason, but they truly are. The George Pickens piece is so huge. He signed the franchise tag. If he actually plays what that team was offensively last year, and now you look at the added pieces defensively, Caleb Downs, one of the best draft picks, in my opinion, on the defensive side of the ball, what they can do at the linebacker position, this is the team that could be scary very early, and if they play down the stretch, Dak Prescott, that is.
What's the Cowboys schedule?
What's it looking at, Shefty?
Dallas has got a bye in Week 14 before finishing at the Rams, home for Jacksonville, home for the Giants, at Washington. Kind of a favorable finish to the Dallas season. I like the Cowboys a lot this year. I think a lot. You mentioned Caleb Downs. Don't forget the name Jalen Thompson either.
Yes.
Love that guy, too.
Big-time player from Arizona.
By the way, I got a question. Does Dan Graziano, is this like a homework assignment that you gave him?
Yes.
To send in questions to ask? Like, how does this happen?
I don't know. He's at his son's graduation this weekend. Congratulations to the Graziano family. But he did this for us before he left. Get up with us. And today, a lot of fun, obviously. Got the football squad together with schedule release coming out yesterday. So we've put together a green list. And today's green list is brought to you by Hidden Valley Ranch. And these are just some notes that came out of the schedule release yesterday that you will find fascinating. Okay? Here we go. We start with the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are the betting underdog in every game they play.
Wow.
As of this moment, they are the underdog. You can bet on every game at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. It says here on my list, the Week 15 matchup against the Jets could theoretically determine the first pick. I am offended by that. On behalf of the Jets, I will be breaking down their schedule coming up in a moment, and you will see how wrong that is. The next note, the Chiefs and Bills Thanksgiving Day matchup will be the first Thanksgiving game between starting quarterbacks who are both former MVPs.
Wow.
Mahomes and Allen. It's never happened before. You said it to me yesterday. The Thanksgiving schedule is ridiculously good. It is a feast.
I see what you did there.
It genuinely is a feast. Bears and Lions, incredibly good matchups. Next, and this I think is significant for a team that made the playoffs last year. RC, how big a deal is this? The Jaguars will play a total of 1 game in Jacksonville over a 2-month period from September 28th to November 28th. 2 of their games in that stretch will be in London.
I think that's huge, and here's the reason. It's about your schedule. It's about your routine.
Right.
It's about your regimen. You're now taking them away from home for such a large block of time. That'll affect the play on the field as well.
I agree. The next one, the 49ers' opponents will travel a combined 40,340 miles this year, the most in a season in NFL history. So we talked about the Niners having to travel all those miles. It actually kind of works both ways sometimes. We'll see which way the advantage falls. And then finally, which team has the most standalone games? The answer is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, an offseason of change, all the scrutiny, all the attention on their quarterback. They have 8 standalone games.
Rams had
this year.
7 primetime games.
Right. So standalone can come in a lot of different
Yes.
forms.
Yep.
Primetime games, the Rams have a lot of them. 5 teams, including the Jets, have no primetime games. But it does bring us to the Eagles and all the attention that will be on that man. We've talked about the microscopic scrutiny that he sometimes faces. Well, now there are going to be 8 different occasions when there's no other team to watch while he's playing.
Yeah, listen, the big thing is the A.J. Brown eventual trade, and the new offense that Jalen Hurts is going to be operating on, it's going to be totally different. It's going to be, new personnel. It's going to be operating more underneath center, more in between the numbers. And so for a guy who seems like every year has to operate under a new offensive coach, how is he going to react this year?
RC, some things people will always say, don't make excuses. Some things are not excuses, they're reasons. Let me know if you have a breaking story over there. Some things are not excuses, they are reasons. 7 different offensive play callers during his NFL career. I had Troy Aikman in here earlier this week, and he was talking about it. Like, the fact that he has succeeded to the level he has under those circumstances is an extraordinary testament to how hard he works.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many things about that you want from your quarterback that he exemplifies to the nth degree.
Yeah, and I think it's about the optics of what the game looks like sometime as to why Jalen Hurts gets so much scrutiny. But to have so many different coordinators, to be able to succeed at the quarterback position and win at the highest level, also the way that he's shown up in the world's biggest football game twice says a lot about Jalen Hurts. But he knows the level of scrutiny he's under this year. He knows how high the criticism will be, and he's focused on that. And the other thing about this new offense is if A.J. Brown does go to New England or if he is on a new team, this wide receiver core is built more like the Green Bay Packers were. He's going to have to spread the football around, understand who's open, understand his matchups, and I believe he's ready for that challenge.
Jalen Hurts just got a shout out in Drake's new album, Iceman.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes. He dropped 3 albums last night. Drake dropped 3 albums at midnight last night. Have you heard them yet, RC? I got a full report from my son this morning.
Did you know that?
Yes. There's a ton of sports references. There are a ton of sports
Drake
references.
always has a ton of sports references.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, he knew that LeBron would be on that side, apparently, from what he says. And then he talks about other producers say you take the AK out and you got, listen, Drake is always dropping gems.
Right.
But the biggest thing is this. It does hurt sometimes the way that Jalen Hurts plays or the way that he's scrutinized. And he has to figure out how to be a better player consistently. And then Drake maybe will have a different bar for him on the next album.
That's why it's always good to have adult children. They inform you of these types of things.
That's exactly right. I got a full rundown, a full scouting report.
That's a big deal that he's in Drake, right?
I woke up to 16 texts about these 3 albums that Drake dropped on one night.
All right, I have one thing left to do. This is, Brandon, can you bring me the iPad, please?
Oh, my
This
goodness.
is a tradition unlike any other. Every year, going back to the Mike and Mike days, on the day after schedule release, I pick the Jets record. So
Have
here
you
we
ever
go.
been right?
I'll be close this year.
Okay.
Here we go. They play the Titans. That's the Robert Saleh revenge game. They play the Packers. No Micah Parsons. Lions and Bears. Let's figure they split those two. Versus the Browns. They win that. Patriots. I have no idea what's going on with them right now. Dolphins might be the worst team in the league. Raiders were the worst team in the league last year. Chiefs and Bills. Figure you split those two. At the Chargers, by then they're always all hurt. The Dolphins we mentioned already. Then a late bye, which I love.
Yeah.
Broncos will be resting their starters. Cardinals, who knows who their starters are. Patriots, we talked about. Vikings, let's say maybe we drop that one. And the Bills will be resting their starters. So I look at it, 14-3. RC, tell me where I'm wrong.
Why are the Broncos resting their starters on December 13th?
You'd be surprised how these things tend to work out.
Okay.
I just think that I just have a funny feeling
know what?
that's going to wind up happening.
I see 14-3 for the Jets, and I
Yeah.
just say it's great to be a Jets fan.
Yeah, I think it feels pretty good. All the 1 o'clock games. They don't have a single primetime game. They play every
you know what?
game at 1
So
o'clock.
they get more rest than other
It's
teams?
literally the best schedule. As a former player, I want 1 o'clock games
I
every week.
asked somebody about the Jets schedule yesterday, how would you describe it? And they said it's very fan-friendly.
Yes.
Right. 2 games that aren't 1 o'clock starts, no prime time games. If you want to be there early and join Greeny for his 5 o'clock reservation with John Harbaugh and Mike
guys,
there you
McCarthy
go.
at the same restaurant, you're in business.
I'm just going to say this. It's never good when you have 0 primetime games. I don't know if that's the schedule I want, Greeny.
Let's stun the world. Let's shock everybody. D, we'll take a step back because I realize I don't know why I gave us a loss to Minnesota.
Yeah,
But I think
well.
we wound up winning that game too. I think I may have
Oh,
sold
so
it
you
short.
wait.
My apologies. I think I
So
sold it
15-2.
short. 15-2.
Okay.
I think that seems realistic.
Would you take that right now, Greeny?
I'll sign for 15-2.
That would also feel like the biggest turnaround in NFL history, by the way.
I don't see any reason why it won't happen.
Break up the Jets.
Coming up on first day, is it